Hi everyone, I hope you are all well. It's getting closer and closer to Christmas, and I know that very well now because I have finished work for Christmas. Yay! Which means I've got a lot more time on my hands to do reading. And thanks to that, I have finally finished I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. It's been a bit of a funny week because even though I was at work Monday through to Thursday, I was doing a lot longer hours and everything to make sure everything was done before Christmas. So I hadn't read that much by the Thursday evening. So I spent pretty much my whole day on Friday that I had off and what time I had yesterday doing family stuff to finish it, and I finished it last night. And I finished this book, and I put it down, and I just had to sit there quietly for about 5 minutes to try and take in what I had just read. And I haven't felt this way about a book, whether fiction or non-fiction, since I read Gary Young's Another Day in a Death America, which I don't know if you saw my review of. And when I shot that, I think it was very, very early in the morning. Or I was or like really late at night, and I was crying and everything because I'd just been, I was really shook by that book, and it's still with me, that book, that feeling. And I had that feeling back last night when I finished this one. In case you don't know what it's about non-fiction book about the search for the Golden State Killer. Michelle McNamara was a true crime journalist, and she set up, I don't know if you've seen True Crime Daily. It was a blog, and they've got a YouTube channel now, which I've been subscribed to for a very, very long time. And she had this obsession with solving crimes and stuff, so it suited her, and she got obsessed with the Golden State Killer. Golden State Killer was actually a name she gave him, but it's a fascinating case, and this is her book, writing about all the events, bringing it all together, and her writing about her obsession. And sadly, Michelle passed away in 2016 before the book was finished. But her husband, Patton, said this is her work. This was her passion. You've got to make sure that this gets published. So the publishers brought together people people who she worked closely with to finish the book, and it's made up. The chapters which were written or compiled, as it were, after her death, are all introduced at the very beginning of those chapters, saying, this chapter was made up from notes but Michelle created under her chapter name of XYZ, whatever it is. And there is one chapter where it's actually a transcript of an interview that she was having with another person in a car as they were traveling around looking at the various locations the Golden State Killer is linked to. And so this structure is very interesting, that you have, it is Michelle's writing, but in certain chapters it makes it clear, okay, this is made up of extracts from this source, it's made up from notes that she made here. Some parts, especially kind of the ones where it says made up of notes, it's more bullet points than fully written formed chapters, as it were. But that doesn't ruin it or anything. If anything, that makes it all the better, because they're saying this is what Michelle wrote. We don't want to mess with this. This is her work, and it's absolutely wonderful to the fact that they left it in that structure. As a dedication to her, it's wonderful. And earlier this year, it was in, I think it was March or something, earlier, or maybe in the summer, he was found through DNA, familiar DNA. So what that is where it was due to websites like Ancestry.com, where a family member, a distant family member or whatever, they provide saliva to be able to track information about their ancestors and everything. But part of the clause when you sign up to this and agree to it is that it can be used by police for detective work and everything. And due to the familial line, so it's a link to him via a different family member, they were able to pin him down and find him, and he was arrested. And I watched the press conference after I finished this book, and I'd waited about an hour or so. I watched the press conference, and the emotions that those detectives who had been working on this case for about 40 years, 40 years to find this guy, being able to say, we have him, you could feel it. It's a really powerful thing to watch. But as I was saying, this really shook me up. I was having for about, I think, 3 days, maybe 4 days, because I started on the Monday, and I think I stopped having these dreams about the Thursday, Friday. I was dreaming about the crime scenes, the things, that they saw in that. And I live alone, and even the slightest sound in my house at night, I was wide awake. I was thinking, oh my God, there's someone in my house. I haven't had a reaction to noises in my house since I read Stephen King's It. And I have got this like metal kind of table, which this laptop is sat on at the moment. And I actually got into the habit, because it just made me feel better when I went to bed, having it right up against my front door, so that if anybody tried to get in, I'd hear it scraping across the floor. It sounds stupid, the fact that it got me that freaked out, given that this is a guy who wasn't in the country that I was in, and these attacks happened decades and decades ago, but it freaked me out that much. I think that says something. Don't worry, I no longer have been putting, guide table against my front door. But it just goes to show the power of this piece did for me. The Golden State Killer. He was, in case you're not aware of him, he was kind of referred to as 3 or 4 different names, because of the various crimes that he committed. It was for a long time thought that these were completely separate people. They just kind of popped up here and there around Sacramento, but it was actually one person we're now able to determine. And at the beginning, actually, there is a map of California, because it was Sacramento where he mainly attacked people and such. So you can see there's a map there, and there's some details of various cases down here, and as a timeline. And these cases are the ones that are really focused on in this book, because just to get you an idea, it is believed that he committed over 120 burglaries, break-ins, over 50 rapes, and murdered 12 people. So that's a lot of cases. But so not every single case is looked at in this book, but quite a significant amount are. And the detail of this book, I mean, it's not that big a book. It's actually, how many pages is it? Oh no, hang on. 328 pages, so it's not a mammoth book, but there's so much complexity to this case, and Michelle is able to convey it beautifully, absolutely beautifully. And if it wasn't for her husband saying to the publishers, this is Michelle's life's work, this has to be completed, I wouldn't have known her work. I had absolutely no idea that this channel, True Crime Daily, which I have loved for a very long time, was established by her. I had no clue until I read this book. I wouldn't have been introduced to such a wonderful, wonderful writer, and I'm so thankful to Patton for doing that. There's a really beautiful chapter at the back where he gives a kind of afterword, as it were, and he's talking about Michelle and her labour of love of this book and everything, and they have a daughter called Alice, and he ends it by saying, This past Christmas, Alice, our daughter, opened a present that Santa had left her. She was happy unwrapping her little digital camera and messing around with the settings. Fun gift. Happy holidays, sweetie. Later that morning, she asked out the blue, Daddy, why do you and Santa Claus have the same handwriting? Michelle McNamara is gone, but she left behind a little detective and a mystery. I thought that was so beautiful. That entire section, but she finishes the book with an absolute astonishing letter called "Letter to an Old Man." Where, because at the time, obviously, that this was published 2000. Well, she died in April 2016. It was published, I think, later that year or early 2017. And let me just check. And he was captured in 2018. Oh no, I beg pardon. My error. It was published 2018, and a few months later he was then captured. So so she wrote this letter to the Golden State Killer, and the ending gave me chills, absolute chills, and I just had to sit there very quietly in my living room and just kind of go, oh my god, wow. To give you an idea of her writing, there's this section where I read it and my mouth fell open. The way that she writes this section is astonishing, and I actually sent a picture to my sister of the page, and she read it and she wrote back. She's like, "Oh my god, that is amazing, beautiful," and it's astonishing. And this is about a woman, one of his victims, on Friday, December 8th. I think it's in the 1970s, this one, because his crime spread from the early 1970s to 1986. And she's talking about this woman's life and everything, but this section is the bit that I was in awe of her writing. And it says, that's who she was as she slept around 2 a.m. on a cold night in December. A woman starting over an estate where the covered wagons stopped and storied reinventions began. A woman navigating an unremarkably complicated love life. A woman about to be irrevocably changed. What is the lasting damage when you believe the warm spot that you were just sleeping in will be your grave? Time sands the edges of the injuries, but they never lose their hold. A nameless syndrome circulates permanently through the body, sometimes long dormant, other times radiating powerful waves of pain and fear. A hand gripped her neck, a blunt-tipped weapon dug into the side of her throat. At least a dozen investigators in Northern California could have correctly predicted the first words whispered in the dark. Don't move. Don't scream. He was back, or more accurately, he had double-backed. The uncertainty of his course, the randomness of his strikes, made him an unpredictable dark force, a one-man crime wave. Just the use of the sand and the scarring and how, the dormant or the active. I am in love with this, the way that this is written. Michelle, my God, you are the one hell of a writer, and I'm so sad. I am so sad that I won't get to read future books of hers. I feel like I want to dig out everything that she has written and read it. She was an extraordinary woman, and it's so thrilling. It's so tense. It is so powerful. I'm in awe. I'm in utter awe. I think it's very, very, very easy to say that this is going to be among my top 3 or top 5, depending what I do, non-fiction books of the year. It's extraordinary. Please, if you're able to get hold of a copy, please read this book. it's, God, no words. Wow. There has been a HBO series which has aired. My dad was telling me about earlier on this year. I thought it was still in production, but no, he said it's already aired. So I'm gonna try and track that down. I think here in the UK it's available via Sky, but I'm not too sure. I'm going to look into that. But I'm really excited to watch that. And the twists and turns of this case, and obviously going forward now that they've captured him, his trial and such, because he's pled not guilty, but because of the amount of cases and such, it's been predicted that it could take up to like 10 years to trial him for all of them, and cost millions upon millions of dollars in America to go through all that. So we'll just have to see what happens. But I think Michelle should be, wherever she is, would be so proud of her work, so proud of everything that she did to work with these various people, to all those who investigated as well. So proud that for 30-40 years you have not given up and you finally found this man. You should be applauded for your determination. Michelle's family, her husband, so proud of what she has achieved, and this book will not be leaving my bookcase for some time. It's not going to leave me for some time. I really feel that this and Another Day in the Death of America are going to be two books. So if anybody asks me to recommend any non-fiction years off in the future, I will instantly say these two books. They're not going to leave me for a very, very long time. Thank you so much, Michelle. And yeah. There. It was astonishing. So that's all I could think of to say about the absolutely amazing late great Michelle. Oh, sorry, ow! Just slapped my hand on the table. Michelle McNamara. Have you read this book? I'd love to know what you think. You can leave me a comment in the comments box below, or you can give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, entirely up to you, let you decide. And I will be back to announce what book I'm going to be reading next. It's a bit of a long one, so I don't know how long it's going to take, but yeah, we'll just see how it goes. But you can see that in my other video. And if I don't get to finish it before Christmas, I hope you guys have a fabulous Christmas. Alright guys, bye!